fellow human beings, PowerGamer here. Going to space ain't easy, I should know, I went there by accident, but if the right people go to space, it can change your life in ways you'd never imagined by giving you something you didn't even know you wanted, like one of the greatest video games ever made, or Moon's Hand. Does anyone else remember that?
Super Mario Galaxy, where no plumber has gone before, except in Mario Land 2. Easily one of the most beloved entries in the entire Mario series, and do you have any idea how much of an accomplishment that is? This is one of the most popular video game franchises of all time, so something being the fan-favorite entry is a big frickin' deal. I mean, 64 was considered the peak of the series for quite a while, but that has shifted over time. Galaxy's praise hasn't. This game is just as beloved now as it was when it first came out, if not more so. Legends don't just fall from the sky, right? Okay, sometimes they do, but this one didn't. The concept goes all the way back to the beginning of time in 1996. I mean, we all know time is tied to the Z-axis, right? Super Mario 64 was a juggernaut that pushed gaming forward forever, but this also came at the cost of alienating people who thought 3D was too big of a jump from 2D. At least that's what some of the developers at Nintendo thought, so some members got together to try and mitigate issues that they thought people had, which resulted in the creation of the famous Super Mario 128 tech demo that was shown off at Nintendo Space World in 2000, which would end up being the basis for several Nintendo games, most notably Pikmin, but Yoshiaki Koizumi really latched onto the idea of spherical platforms, which would become the core aspect of Mario Galaxy. During the development of Donkey Kong Jungle Beat, Koizumi and several other team members wanted to use the skills that they had learned to finally make this type of thing a reality. So in 2005, documents were created for a big new 3D Mario game designed for the upcoming Nintendo Revolution, which we would later know as the Wii. With Koizumi as the director and Shigeru Miyamoto as a producer, the project was officially greenlit and the team got to work. Early on, they decided to give Mario a spin attack to assist in defeating enemies, which was originally supposed to be infinite, but Miyamoto suggested adding a small delay to it for added challenge. The team apparently wanted the game to be enjoyed by players from ages 5 to 95, so sorry Dick Van Dyke, which resulted in the team going back and forth with several elements on how challenging it should be. They decided a clever way to implement the spherical platforming would be putting the game in space and having Mario walk around different planets. Because of this, the team was given full freedom to do basically whatever they wanted with the level design. The game was first publicly shown off at E3 2006, and Miyamoto stated that it would release within 6 months of the Wii's launch. However, the development team decided to push the game back a bit since they wanted it to be something they were truly happy with. Super Mario Galaxy was released in Japan on November 1st, 2007, plus North America on the 12th, Europe on the 16th, and Australia on the 29th. The game was an immediate hit, becoming the 5th best-selling game of 2007, and eventually reaching 12.8 million copies, making it the 9th best-selling Wii game ever made. And it was met with more acclaim than you could know what to do with. Everyone absolutely loved this thing and hailed it as one of the greatest video games of all time. So basically the opposite of Sonic's 7th generation debut. Sorry, buddy. This game won a bunch of awards, and it was even the highest-rated game on game rankings until it was shut down in 2019. It was so popular that it ended up being the first 3D Mario game to get a direct sequel a few years later, and it's the primary basis for the next Super Mario movie. It would also end up being ported to the Switch in 2020 via the 3D All-Stars collection, as well as this little dual pack with Galaxy 2 in 2025. And it was also released for the NVIDIA Shield. What the hell is this? Oh, it was some weird emulation console that was only released in China.
Now, despite growing up with a Wii, I never actually had this game as a kid. I think it's because I never really saw any commercials for it, and I never got it as a gift. So the only reason I even knew it existed was because I saw it at a handful of friends' houses, but that was about it. It wasn't until I started learning about older games I heard how amazing the Galaxy duology was, so the one time I actually traded in games to GameStop, I brought a handful of stuff I never saw myself playing again, and had just enough credits left to buy this game. Which was only $15, by the way. I then proceeded to complete the game 100% over the course of 2 separate summer vacations, and I absolutely loved it. I was so happy to finally see what I had been missing out on for all these years, because it completely lived up to the hype. But despite that, I haven't actually played it since then, and there's no better time to play it than now with the Galaxy movie coming out, so let's see what makes this one of the most popular titles in one of the most popular franchises ever made.
We usually have more story than you'd expect for a Mario game. Every 100 years, the Mushroom Kingdom holds an event called the Star Festival to celebrate a special comet passing by. Mario receives a letter from Peach asking him to come to the festival because she has a gift for him, which I can only assume is this little star creature she's holding. Without hesitating, Mario heads on over, but once he arrives, the castle is attacked by Bowser, who invites Peach to the creation of his new galaxy. Bowser proceeds to completely abduct Peach's castle with a spaceship, and Mario tries to stop him, but he's blasted off by a Magikoopa and lands on this nearby planet. There, he's awoken by that star creature that introduces itself as a Luma and offers to help Mario find his way. After exploring a bit, Mario meets Princess Rosalina, the overseer of the cosmos and caretaker of the Lumas. Mario then does a little obstacle course to grab this big star, which transports him to the Comet Observatory. Rosalina explains the observatory's energy comes from power stars, and all of them have been stolen by Bowser. If Mario wants to save Peach, he needs to find as many stars as possible to restore the power of the observatory by entering each of these domes and launching himself to different galaxies. This might seem like standard Mario affair, and to some extent it is, but I really really like how they do a much better job of actually fleshing things out. Stuff like the Star Festival and Comet Observatory are a really fun way to expand the Mario universe. The opening cutscenes are way more cinematic than anything we saw previously, which really gets you amped up for the adventure. Bowser genuinely feels like a threat in this game with his invasion, which is way more intimidating than just yelling at you to go home or having his son frame you for vandalism. The Lumas are absolutely adorable and have some fun lore behind them, and this game introduces Rosalina, who is easily one of the most popular Mario characters ever. She just has this really enchanting presence to her, and she's one of the few Mario characters to actually have a legitimate backstory, but we'll go more into that later. Plus, it certainly doesn't hurt that she's one of the most gorgeous women to ever grace the world of video games.
Yes, I am one of the Rosalina Sims, and I'm okay with that.
Galaxy is a giant step up from the previous Mario games in terms of presentation. I already talked about how much more cinematic it feels, but that is just the beginning. This game looks absolutely gorgeous. The Wii may have been severely underpowered for its time, but Mario Galaxy proves that it can still do some amazing graphics. It is one of, if not the best looking game on the entire console. The colors just pop so hard, and the backgrounds convey the beauty of space tremendously well. But somehow, that's nothing compared to the music. This is easily one of the best soundtracks in video game history. While there are some examples of traditional Mario-style music, they decided to whip out a full orchestra for a lot of these songs, and my god, did they freaking kill it, because this game has what is easily my favorite soundtrack in the entire Mario series. All of these range from bouncy and fun to enchantingly beautiful. Though unlike Sunshine, the game decides to scrap the full voice acting and keep it limited to only a few lines, but given how awkward and poorly mixed it was in that game, I can't say I miss it. So Mario Galaxy already ups the ante in terms of story, graphics, and music, but does it do the same with the gameplay? Oh, you bet your sweet Italian pasta it does! Much like previously, your goal is to collect the shiny things. In this case, we go back to stars like in Mario 64. However, the process of getting them is actually closer to Sunshine in some way. The levels are split up into galaxies, and there's a lot of them in this game. 64 had 15 main levels to go through, while Sunshine had 7, plus a handful of mini-courses. Galaxy, on the other hand, has a total of 42 different levels. Now, to be fair, these aren't all the same size. Some are proper levels, while others are closer to the obstacle courses or boss stages. The bigger galaxies contain 6 stars, while the smaller ones only have 1, aside from a few extra stars hidden throughout. You travel to most of these galaxies by entering one of the domes in the Comet Observatory, which acts as the hub world. You grab onto this pole star, pick a galaxy, and then select whatever mission is available. And much like Sunshine, you can only grab the star that you select, as the level design will change depending on the mission. In fact, the changes are a lot more drastic in this game than they were before. Because of that, the game is a lot more linear than it was in Sunshine, and especially 64, which some people might not be a big fan of. I do really enjoy the more open-ended structure Mario basically invented, but I have nothing against the straightforward level design either. And thankfully, Galaxy does a great job of that.
They did a really good job of making Galaxy feel distinct from the previous Mario games while still keeping that core gameplay we all know and love, and fixing things that drastically needed improvement, like the controls.
Controlling Mario in a 3D space was always a bit of a struggle before. 64 was really clunky, Sunshine was way too slippery, and 64DS was locked to a D-pad, but thankfully Galaxy is by far the easiest to control in the series so far. Moving in every direction feels fluid, Mario's acceleration isn't too drastic, and almost all of the jank has been removed. You can even crouch again, which means the long jump and backflip are back. Nice. Mario can do just about everything he could in 64, except for the crawl, which is now more of a crouching walk, and the dive, which is a little disappointing, but the long jump makes up for it, especially when you combine it with his newest technique. Now, Mario Galaxy was released for the Wii, so that can only mean one thing: motion controls. Lots of motion controls. Early on in the console's lifespan, a lot of the stuff felt really forced and awkward, but thankfully this game does it decently well. The main use of it comes from Mario's newest technique, courtesy of our Luma friend, the spin attack. If you shake the Wii remote, Mario will spin around, which is a super useful tool. It can hurt enemies, extend your jump, and help you reach higher areas. The amount of tricks you can pull off with the spin jump is absurd, and I love it. And if you don't want to shake the Wii remote, you can also do it by shaking the nunchuck. I don't know why you would want to do that, but you can. And if you shake while doing a ground pound, you can actually home in on enemies. Since this game is a lot more linear and the Wii's controls were a bit more limited in some ways, this game has much more simple camera control. Most of the time it's locked in place, though thankfully due to the level design, moving it is never really needed. In the more open areas, you can turn it with the D-pad or reset it behind you with the C button, but you shouldn't do that too often. You can also go into first-person view to look around, but I don't think that ever really helps that much. But the waggle spin isn't the only motion control needed. The Wii remote's pointer is pretty prominent too. You mainly use it to grab these star bits that are all over the place. You can collect these if you run into them, but most of the time you want to hit them with the pointer. Not only because it's faster, but because they're usually off in the background and you literally can't get to them. And I really like how most enemies will give you star bits if you spin them, and coins if you jump on them, which gives you more control. Their main use comes from giving you extra lives or accessing more stars. You can shoot them at enemies with the B button, but they're not very intuitive or helpful, so I never bother with this. Aside from those, most of the motion controls are context sensitive and tied to special star travel things. The most common one being these launch stars. If you run into them and shake the Wii remote, they'll launch you through the sky to the next surface you have to traverse. These launch sequences are usually just eye candy with some extra star bits to grab, but that doesn't make them any less charming. There's also these flung stars, which are just smaller versions of them that launch you a shorter distance. But for For the more unique stuff, we got pole stars, which you point at and hold the A button to make Mario float towards them, sling pods, which you pull back and launch Mario out of, and these bubbles, which you use the pointer to blow air into and traverse obstacle courses. These don't show up super often, and they're honestly pretty fun, though I'm a bit more mixed on the travel objects. The main one being these rolling balls with stars in them that are kinda awkward. You hold the Wii Remote upright like an arcade joystick and have to tilt it in the corresponding direction to move. You pick up speed really quickly, and it can be easy to lose control. A lot of people hate these sections, and personally I'm not a huge fan of them, but I can get used to them after a while. And finally, there's the Manta Ray, where you hold the Wii Remote flat and turn it like a key to move left and right. Nothing all too crazy.
The motion controls in this game aren't perfect, but they work fine enough for what the game asks for. So now I should probably talk more about the game's level design.
Like I said, it's a lot more linear than in the older games, but it's also a lot more varied. Since we're flying to different planets and galaxies, the game is able to get a lot weirder and more abstract with its level themes. They still feel like tangible places, but it isn't just the traditional grass, ice, desert, lava stuff we're used to, and not everything has to resemble a beach. Instead, we've got stuff like icy mountains, battleships, giant toys, and forests filled with bees, just to name a few. You never really know what to expect from Galaxy, which makes it a ton of fun to experience, especially since many of these levels revolve around the game's main gimmick that I've somehow neglected to talk about at this point: anti-gravity. Because we're in space and on a bunch of different planets, many parts of the game require you to walk sideways, upside down, or around spherical surfaces. Now, anti-gravity is one of those things that's very easy to mess up in video games and make really confusing and obnoxious for the player. But thankfully, Mario Galaxy doesn't do that. Most of the anti-gravity stuff is used pretty sparingly, and you'll rarely be doing it for an extended period of time. And when that does happen, the platforming generally eases up and makes things more simple to understand, which is really nice. This game as a whole is much easier than the older 3D Mario games. The level design is way more forgiving, and unlike before, you actually have checkpoints, which I really appreciate. But even if you are stuck on a tricky part, you'll rarely have to worry about getting a game over, because this game is really generous with lives. Not only are there plenty of 1-up mushrooms, but you get an extra life every time you collect 50 star bits, which is extremely easy to do. And when you turn the game off, your life count always resets to 4 like the other games, but now this Toad will always give you a letter from Peach with 5 bonus lives, meaning you essentially start with 9. And because of how easy it is to get more, that should be more than enough for you to get by. I am not joking when I say I have never gotten a game over in this game, and it is purely due to how forgiving it is. Mario's health system has also been reworked. You only have 3 hit points, and grabbing coins restores them, but you can also find these mushrooms that double your health. And swimming now has an actual air meter, which I felt like I should bring up. As for the game's structure, it's basically a fusion of 64 and Sunshine. 64, you had to collect 70 stars to finish the game, but which ones you got didn't matter at all. Sunshine, you had to beat the Shadow Mario missions in all 7 areas and get all of the shine sprites that lead up to it, so your journey was basically predetermined. Galaxy, however, reaches a nice middle ground. There's once again 120 stars, but only 60 of them are required to beat it. However, each galaxy is located in one of 6 domes, and to unlock a dome, you have to beat the boss and collect the Grand Star at the end. Though only 4 of these are actually required, so while there are some stars you have to do to beat the final boss, the vast majority of them are only needed when going for 100%, which I think gives you a great amount of freedom when revisiting this game.
But it's not just the general structure that's improved, the actual process of getting the stars is much more fun too.
Like I said, there are 2 sizes of Galaxy. The bigger ones are your main levels and then contain 6 stars total, 3 main ones and 3 bonus ones. The main stars are the most straightforward. You select the mission, complete the level, grab the star, and head back to the hub world. But the bonus stars make things a little different. One of them is a secret star that's hidden in one of the main missions. These require you to go off the beaten path and find something like a warp pipe, a hidden launch star, or a hungry Luma that you have to feed star bits to so they'll transform into a planet. And these are pretty neat. But the last 2 revolve around these prankster comets. Prankster comets will appear over a certain galaxy at a random time after you've collected the appropriate star, and these are essentially harder versions of stuff you've already played. Sometimes it's the full level, other times it's just one section. There's 4 different versions, and to be honest, only 2 of them really make a difference. Speed comets, you have to beat under a time limit. Daredevil comets, you only have 1 point of health. Cosmic comets, you have to race a cosmic clone of yourself. And fast foe comets, the enemies move faster. Yeah, the Daredevil and Cosmic comets are the only ones that actually feel like some sort of a challenge. The speed comets just make you need to move faster in a less interesting way than the Cosmic comets, and the fast foe comets are barely noticeable, and even then there's like 2 of them. So the prankster comets aren't awful, but they're nothing amazing either. There is another variation, but we'll have to save that for later. As for the smaller galaxies, these only contain 1 star and are much more straightforward and simple. You do one thing, get it, and then move on. The most unique thing about them is how you travel to them, since some are in domes, but others you get from hungry Lumas. And there's even a few stages that contain green stars, which let you build this launch star in the observatory to find some new areas. After a while, you can even save Luigi, and he'll help you find more stars by sending you letters, which the game actually saves to the Wii message board or the photo album if you're playing on the Switch, which is really charming. On that note, the Comet Observatory is a really solid hub world. It looks nice, I love the music, and it isn't hard to get to where you need to go.
Just about every aspect of this game is amazing, but there is one thing that feels a little dull, and it is, once again, the power-ups.
There's 7 power-ups in the game, and once again, they're all extremely situational and only used to get specific stars. We got 3 mushrooms, 2 flowers, and 2 stars. Not that kind. The most common one is the bee mushroom, which makes you part bee. You can fly for a few seconds and climb on honeycombs, though you can't crouch and your spin is much weaker. Using it is fine, but again, it's nothing super drastic. The boo mushroom turns you into a boo, which is a fun idea, but it's only used for 3 total stars, and one of them it's optional. You just float a little and can turn invisible if you shake the Wii remote, but you lose it if you go in the light. The spring mushroom is possibly the worst power-up in the entire Mario franchise. Yeah, even worse than the mini mushroom. It turns you into a spring, which lets you bounce around, and it is insanely awkward to control. You're constantly bouncing and get some extra height if you push the A button right as you touch the ground, but since you have very limited control, you have to time it perfectly or else it doesn't work. I hate this power-up. It is easily the worst thing in the game. The Fire Flower makes its 3D debut, though it doesn't give you an extra hit point, it just lets you throw fireballs by shaking the Wii remote, which is awkward. And it's on the time limit this time, so that's kinda lame. On the other end of the spectrum, there's the Ice Flower, which lets you freeze water by touching it, and you can skate by shaking the Wii remote. Neat. The Rainbow Star is just the same thing as the Superstar from the 2D games. And finally, the Red Star, which is the most disappointing one of them all. This lets you freely fly around by spinning, which is a really cool idea, and it honestly controls pretty well. This is what the wing cap from Mario 64 should have felt like. Problem is, it's only needed a grand total of once. After that, you only unlock it for the hub world, and that's it. God, that's extremely lame. As for the boss fights, most of them are pretty good. Almost all of the main galaxies have one, and you end off the domes with a fight against Bowser or Bowser Jr. They got a great variety of designs and strategies, which prevents them from feeling stale, which is good because just about every boss in the game has to be fought at least twice, but thankfully the non-Prankster Comet rematches add something to make it more difficult in a way that actually matters. There's only one thing really left to talk about, and that's Rosalina's backstory. As you expand the Comet Observatory, you'll eventually unlock the library, which doesn't contain any levels. Instead, Rosalina will read you different chapters from her storybook as you collect more stars across the game, and the more you read, the more it becomes clear that it's about her. I gotta give credit to the team for actually putting it in here. It wasn't necessary, but the fact that they gave her an actual backstory just because they wanted to is really commendable. So before diving into the levels, let's go over it together, shall we? A long time ago, a young girl found a crashed spaceship with a star child named Luma inside it. Luma said it was looking for its mama, who was coming to get it on a comet, so the girl agreed to wait with it. But after several years, Mama never came, so the two fixed up the spaceship and decided to go find her themselves. After several days of nothing, the two began collecting star bits to feed themselves, and eventually they found a comet full of them, so they decided to ride on it together. One night, the girl had a dream about her mother, which caused her to cry, and then Luma joined in, but the two were able to calm each other down. The girl promised to take care of Luma, so the two decided to fix up the comet and turn it into their home, though it felt kind of lonely for just the two of them. But one day they found more Lumas who called the girl their mama, so she decided to take them in. After seeing a blue comet, the girl looked through her telescope to find her home planet, and old memories caused her to become homesick. And in particular, she misses her mother, who is sleeping under the tree. Oh. She continued to cry, so Luma decided to cheer her up by transforming into a comet to take her home. The others explain that their destiny is to transform into different things, and this cheers her up. So she decides to make the Lumas her new family, and she'll raise them until they're ready to leave the nest. But she likes to revisit her home every 100 years, and continues to raise the Lumas to become what they were always meant to be.
I'm not crying. You are.
After grabbing the first Grand Star, our opening dome is the terrace, and our first proper level is Good Egg Galaxy. While this is a grassy level, it still feels fresh since it throws in some cool stuff, like this anti-gravity capsule or a house that you can take the pipe to get on top of, but triple jumping is way more fun. For bosses, we have Dino Piranha, where you just need to spin its tail, and King Caliente, where you need to dodge the fireballs and spin the coconuts back into it, which is really fun. Honey Hive Galaxy, this place is populated by bees, and there's a lot of honey and trees. Poetry. You also meet some cool characters like Captain Toad and the Honey Queen, whom you have to scratch the back of. I'm not really sure how to feel about this. The boss is Bugaboom, a giant beetle you fly above and then ground pound. Pretty easy. For mini galaxies, we have Loop-de-Loop Galaxy, which is the first manta ray sequence, and thankfully it's not too hard, and Flip Switch Galaxy, which introduces flip switches. You just walk on them so they all turn yellow, but they turn back if you walk on them again. The boss stage is Bowser Jr.'s robot reactor. Bowser Jr. doesn't want to hand over the Grand Star, so he attacks you with this giant robot octopus. You have to run up its legs and then guide these bullet bills to break open the barriers. It's a little tricky, but overall pretty solid. Rosalina tells us that we can reach the center of the universe where Peach is being held if we collect enough stars, and now we unlock the fountain. This contains stuff like Space Junk Galaxy, where almost everything is composed of discarded machinery, and it has some of the most beautiful music in the game. It's so lovely and peaceful and amazing. There's two boss fights. The first is a magic Koopa named Camilla, because Kamek must be on sabbatical. She shoots fireballs and Koopa shells at you, and you want to throw the shells back at her. Simple as that. And the second is a spider named Pterontox, where you use sling pods to fly into the weak spots. Rolling Green Galaxy is the first rolling ball mission. Just make your way through the short golf course and you're good to go. Battle Rock Galaxy is a mountain that's been turned into a warship, though you really just walk on a bunch of space spaceships overlooking it. The boss fight is Top Maniac, a spinning top with blades on its sides. You need to jump on it and then spin it into the laser barrier while other tops try to disrupt you, which is pretty fun. What's not fun is one of my least favorite missions in the game, this stupid robot that forces you to clean up trash with bombs in under 30 seconds. You literally have to aim and throw them perfectly or else you fail, and yes, I know you're supposed to aim for these glowy spots. I still don't like it. Hurry Scurry Galaxy, you grab notes along this hexahedron of disappearing platforms, which is fun. And finally, Bowser's Star Reactor. This level gets pretty topsy-turvy, and I love it. At the end, you fight Bowser himself. You're on this small planet with lava flowing through it, and Bowser will jump to cause shockwaves, spit fireballs, and launch himself into the air. When he does this, you want to make him land on these blue spots to break them and burn his tail. He'll then run around, and you have to chase him. When you reach him, he'll do a tail swipe, and you have to spin him. He'll go flying around again, and you have to find and spin him again. After 3 cycles, he goes down, and while you get the next Grand Star, he says his plan is foolproof. This unlocks the library, and more importantly, the kitchen. Beach Bowl Galaxy is a sandy beach level full of waters and penguins. I think something's wrong here. Now, this level doesn't have a boss fight, but it does have this part where you run by a bunch of whomps.
I feel like I got shafted.
Bubble Breeze Galaxy is our first bubble level, and you gotta maneuver around mines and fans over poison water. Ghostly Galaxy is where we finally see the booze, and yet the blue mushroom is only used for 1 star in here, and it's for like 2 seconds. But at least the haunted aesthetic is pretty cool. This is where you finally save Luigi, and it's home to one of the coolest boss fights in the game, Bouldergeist. A shadowy ghost that surrounds itself in rocks, and you have to avoid its hands and these spikes it summons from the ground. Eventually, it summons these black boos that you can spin to grab and then swing into him. The timing is a little tricky, but it is super satisfying to master. Buoy Base Galaxy is another small water planet with this tower you need to knock down a bit in order to climb. It also has one of the few green stars, and I always end up doing this part first, mainly because this pipe is more obvious. Bowser Jr.'s Airship Armada is an airship level like in Mario 3. Cool. You shoot yourself between them with these cannons and fight Bowser Jr. by just grabbing Koopa shells and throwing them at his ship while avoiding the cannonballs. Basic, but decent. After that, we unlock the bedroom. Don't make a joke, don't make a joke, don't make a joke, don't make a joke. This is where they go from having 2 small galaxies to only 1, so let's just get this out of the way. Honey Climb Galaxy. It's just using the bee mushroom to climb over a wall of honeycombs, though I always like seeing how few I can touch by flying over them. Gusty Garden Galaxy. Oh, this is it. This right here. Peak. You grab these giant dandelion seeds and ride along them through the wind while spinning up to 3 times to give yourself a boost. You spin along all these vines and run through so many fun places like a garden maze, giant apples, and a stack of cubes. All of it is so much fun, but what really makes it is the music. This might be the best song in the entire game, and do you have any idea how much of an accomplishment that is? This is just so beautiful and energetic, and oh my god, I love it so much. The boss fight is a giant mole that you run away from, ground pound when he pops up, and then spin him before he goes back down. Freeze Flame Galaxy is another highlight. It shifts between ice levels and fire levels depending on the mission, even combining the 2 of them together. It's really fun going from ice skating up a mountain to jumping over lava, and the last mission with both is super creative. This is another one of my favorites. Dusty Dune Galaxy is unfortunately kind of boring after those. It's a desert full of insta-death quicksand and multiple rising buildings that just end up being annoying. But these tornadoes are kinda neat, so there's that, I guess. Bowser's Dark Matter Plant was one of the coolest boss levels in the game. You got shifting gravity places that really test your platforming, and dark matter everywhere that instantly kills you, which makes for a pretty fun challenge. The boss fight is the same as last time, only he's a bit faster and punches you as well. He says his master plan is almost complete, and we get the star. This fires up the engine, meaning we can actually head to the center of the universe and take him on right now, but I'm not doing that yet. We've got more work to do, like going to the engine room and trying Bonefin Galaxy, which is a fight against a skeleton fish that requires grabbing shells underwater and throwing them into him, just like an earlier boss fight in one of the side galaxies.
Yes, this is the point of the game where the boss fights really start to repeat themselves.
Gold Leaf Galaxy. This is literally just Honey Hive Galaxy, but inverted and with fall colors. I mean, the challenges are different, but the actual level layout is exactly the same. Talk about cutting corners. You fight this guy in a bubble cannon that requires hitting the switch to raise platforms, letting you reach him. Sea Slide Galaxy is kinda lame. It's basically if Beach Bowl Galaxy was a ring and 2 of the main stars are just going around in a loop. Plus, it straight up reuses Hurry Scurry Galaxy's concept, so that's great. Toy Time Galaxy is a mixed bag. I love the concept of the whole thing being composed of toys, like a train, mechanical platforms, a giant toy robot, and even platforms in the shape of Mario's 8-bit sprite. But this is the first galaxy to use the spring mushroom, which, like I said, is extremely awkward and annoying. The boss fight is this dude in a lightning cannon that's extremely frustrating because of you-know-what. Bowser Jr.'s lava reactor is a really short sequence followed by a rematch with King Caliente. You have to hit the coconuts more times, and the whole thing has you stand on platforms that sink into the lava, so be ready. After that, we unlock the final area, the garden, which only contains 4 galaxies. Deep Dark Galaxy starts out with a small beach, but going through this cave reveals a deep pond containing a haunted ghost ship below, and an obstacle course that ends with you slamming balls into a watermelon above. The boss fight is a rematch with Camilla, who summons more Magic Koopas for assistance, but that's the only thing different. No, on my first try, I beat it without without taking a hit, but the Daredevil comet I just kept screwing up over and over again, and I have no idea why. I also spent like 15 minutes trying to find the hidden star, so yeah, not a big fan of this place. Dreadnought Galaxy is way cooler, as you're infiltrating this warship from a bunch of different angles, and the place is filled with all sorts of cool traps and hazards. Plus there's a rematch with Top Master, and are you freaking kidding me? More trash? Was this really necessary to have twice? Matter Splatter Galaxy is a really cool concept, since the ground will only appear when this blue light goes over it, so you really gotta plan things out. Aside from the spring mushroom section, this place is ingenious, and I really wish they used this concept more throughout the game. And our final major galaxy is Melty Molten Galaxy. It's covered in lava. It has all sorts of unique hazards like a bunch of fireballs, a sinking spire, rolling on a ball, and a rematch with Dino Piranha who lights himself on fire. But the real kicker is the Prankster Comet, which is the only Daredevil run that isn't a boss fight, it's a full level. Yeah, the lava level is the only one you have to beat without taking a single hit. I don't care what anyone says, this is the hardest power star in the game. When I first played this game, I was stuck on this mission for like an hour, and here I beat it on my first try.
I guess I'm more skilled than I thought. Ignore that.
As for the stuff outside the domes, the Hungry Lumas lead to Sweet Sweet Galaxy, which is just jumping on moving candy platforms. Sling Pod Galaxy is mainly using sling pods. Lazy name, but at least it gives you a good opportunity to farm star bits. Drip Drop Galaxy is just one planet covered in water and a boss fight against this giant fish, where all you have to do is grab the shells and throw them into him. And the shells don't have a time limit like in Mario 64, which makes it much easier. Big Mouth Galaxy, which is just diving into the mouth of a giant fish cave and finding a shell to open this chest so you can save Captain Toad. Sand Spiral Galaxy has you choose between the bee and boom mushroom to travel along the sand course, which is a fun idea. Personally, I always pick the Boo Mushroom, though this part at the end is really annoying. Don't go on the last couple platforms, just long jump to the planet. Boo's Boneyard Galaxy is just a race against this Boo, and Snowcap Galaxy has you chasing bunnies around a snowy planet. You have to find and catch them before time runs out. Through this door lies Gateway Galaxy, which has you return to the opening area of the game and collect purple coins using the red star, which is the only time the thing is used, and the power star itself is red because it unlocks the red star for the hub world. And finally, the three that come from collecting all of the green stars. Rolling Gizmo Galaxy is another ball rolling mission that's a really complicated obstacle course. Bubble Blast Galaxy is another bubble level that's honestly pretty cool, since you go through 5 different courses to grab pieces of this launch star, and Loop to Swoop Galaxy is just a more difficult manta ray course. Alright, now we can finally head to the center of the universe. Rosalina activates the full power of the observatory and flies in, telling Mario to head to the center of the castle. This is it, Bowser's Galaxy Reactor. You use these spotlights to walk on walls, jump over lava, run along blocks that only appear when you get close to them, and finally run through this giant cylinder of lava. At the end, you finally find Peach, as well as Bowser Jr. and Bowser himself. Bowser says he's going to create his own galaxy and use it as a foundation to rule the universe with Peach by his side, but we're not letting that happen, so the final showdown begins. The fight is split into 3 phases. The first, you avoid shockwaves, and then he turns into a boulder, which you have to spin on the right spot. Then he rolls around, and you do the old chase and spin. The second phase, he spits into fireballs and rolls around in his shell, so you have to smack these things into him for another spin chase. And the final phase is once again the lava jumping, only with the shell roll added. It's not a super hard fight, but it is a really fun one, and much better than the final boss fights of the last 2 games. After enough hits, Bowser is finally defeated and sucked into the sun. We get the last Grand Star and use it to save Peach. Bowser's star starts to collapse and then turns into a black hole, but the Lumas all sacrifice themselves by flying into it to stop it from consuming everything. Then Mario has a vision of Rosalina, who tells him that when stars die, they become stardust and scatter across the galaxy, which forms new stars, and the cycle continuously repeats, though not exactly in the same way. He then awakens back in the Mushroom Kingdom alongside Peach and Bowser, and he welcomes the new galaxy as the credits roll.
But we're not done just yet. I only have 105 stars because the remaining 15 aren't actually available until you beat Bowser.
Remember that other type of prankster comet I mentioned earlier? Well, that would be the purple comets, and these are only unlocked after you beat Bowser. There's one of these in every big galaxy, and they're basically the equivalent of the 100 coin missions from the last 2 games. Purple coins are scattered across each galaxy, and you have to collect 100 of them. But there's actually a bit of variety to how these work. Sometimes there's exactly 100 and you have to get all of them, other times there's 150 and you have a bit of freedom, sometimes you have to search the entire level, and other times you're confined to a small area and there's a time limit. My opinion on these varies from stage to stage. The smaller ones aren't that bad and can provide some decent challenge, but I'm not really a fan of the ones where you have to cover the entire level, since some of the bigger stages like Honey Hive Galaxy or Sea Slide Galaxy can take forever, especially if you end up missing one somehow. I definitely prefer these over the 100 coin stars from the last game, but I'm not foaming at them out to do these, so I'd say they're ultimately harmless. But once you've collected them all and reached the 120 star count, you can once again take the fight to Bowser. The fight is basically the exact same thing as the first time, only unlike Super Mario Sunshine, completing the game 100% actually serves a purpose.
Well, okay, first there's an extra cutscene with Rosalina thanking Mario for his assistance and saying she'll watch over everybody, but after that, this happens.
Super Luigi Galaxy.
Yep, you gain the ability to replay the entire game, but as Luigi, and it isn't just a cosmetic thing, it actually makes a difference. Much like in the 2D games, Luigi can jump slightly higher than Mario, though he has less traction under his feet. This is honestly a really cool reward that can actually warrant playing through the whole game again. Plus, Luigi isn't changed to Mario when he needs rescuing, so Luigi is literally saving himself, which is hilarious. And remember how I said I completed this game over the course of 2 separate summers? Well, that's because the first year I got all the stars as Mario, and then the next year I got all the stars as Luigi, and both playthroughs were a great time. And you actually get another reward for getting all the stars as Luigi, which some people might say feel like padding for 100% completion, but I think it works since your reward actually serves a purpose to doing it rather than just something you can screw around with or the game saying, good job. It certainly helps that the process of completing this game is nowhere near as frustrating as it was in Sunshine or even 64. Then at the end of this entire journey lies one final galaxy called Grand Finale Galaxy. Again, this might seem a bit lame to some people, but I think this is a really nice way to round out the game, because now our wonderful space journey can finally come to a close.
Super Mario Galaxy is absolutely amazing. It elevates the 3D Mario formula in a fantastic way, and it throws in a superb amount of fun levels, great bosses, gorgeous visuals, and a beautiful soundtrack. While it's not my favorite Mario game, it is still really high up there, and if you somehow haven't played it, you are missing out. So definitely get on that if you have a Wii or a Switch.
Oh, right, I should also talk about the Switch version. Well, it's mostly the same game, but the controls have been slightly tweaked. You now have the option to spin with a button in addition to shaking, which is nice, and while most of the Joy-Con feels the same as the Wii remote, the biggest difference is the pointer. Instead of using the IR sensor, you use the touchscreen when playing in handheld mode or the gyroscope when playing in console mode, which thankfully can be reset at any time. I will say this doesn't feel quite as good as it did in the Wii version, but it still works fine enough. So the Switch version is still a great way to play this game.
Regardless of method, this is a must-play for just about anyone, especially if you're a Mario fan. There are very few games that I can genuinely describe as magical, but Super Mario Galaxy is one of those games, and I absolutely love it, even as someone who missed out on it when I was growing up. If I had any piece of advice I could give to my younger self, it would definitely be to ask for Super Mario Galaxy for a Christmas or birthday present. Also, don't go on that canoe trip in 8th grade.